Well, what's up, good people? Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I hope everybody's having a great day. I have had the worst day. Philly 500 literally going after me, Dan Salio going after me. I wake up in the morning and getting texts from Philly 500. And I know this is going to be going on all offseason. I get people that are clowning because Dak Prescott was asked a question and he answered the only way you really can answer the question is, I think we're right there with the Eagles and things as far as what we've been able to do against them. And that is true. And you can laugh at me all you want. But the reality is the Cowboys are built to make the playoffs. They're not built to be a Super Bowl contender. And that goes back to the Joneses. And, I'm hopeful that the Cowboys change, but I don't think they will. Normally it's kind of like, well, we want to get a deal done, but, that Dak wouldn't cooperate. Dak beat us down, or CD Lamb. Oh, it's really hard. Well, this time you've got a player who's saying, I don't have to be the highest paid, and I want to get my deal done so we can do other things. That's what we have right now. So there's no excuses for the Cowboys for not getting it done other than they're just jackasses. That's all you can say. Literally, the Cowboys, if they don't get this thing done in reasonable time to be able to help the team, they just don't give a rat's ass about winning. And, I get laughed at and, told that I'm an idiot. It's just because my quarterback stinks. But how many points did the Kansas City score in that game? Was it a shootout? What was it, 16 points? Because Philly 500 literally said, well, Dak couldn't have won that game. What? It was only 16 points that they had. Your defense got a pick six. So I'm not sure I know what you're talking about. But there is a wish list for the offseason, and I hadn't thought about this one too much because I'm still in the pain of dealing with the Cowboys, season of my discontent. This is actually ESPN doing an off-season wish list, and lo and behold, the whole segment is about the Cowboys, basically. Let's go to the tape, shall we?
Game called off-season wish list. Here we go, Kmart. It's not Christmas, but I want to know what's on your wish list for this off-season.
Listen, I've covered this guy a long time. I want to see Myles Garrett leave Cleveland and go to Detroit. Yes, you heard me. You know why? Because in their last two playoff games, the Lions defense gave up 79 points. That cannot happen. I understand they had a lot of injuries, but adding Myles Garrett to Aiden Hutchinson, who's going to come back from injury, I think is the perfect thing.
What do you think of it, Jeffrey?
I 100% agree. And I think in a league where they're going to have to compete in the NFC, they got to get passers on the ground. They got to have closers. Having one closer you can slide to makes it much more difficult.
It's a no-brainer. When you have a Hall of Famer available in his 20s, Greeny, if I'm Brad Holmes, GM of the Lions, pay the bill and get to the Super Bowl.
I've heard a lot of other teams thrown around out there. A lot of people, Commanders, because they have the quarterback on the rookie deal. So we'll see. Myles Garrett wants to be traded. We'll see if that happens. Mike T, let's go to your off-season wish list.
Greeny, this one's easy. Kirk Cousins to the Cleveland Browns. In Kirk Cousins' productive career, great stat from Hembo. His best QBR was with Kevin Stefanski when they were together in Minnesota. This is a marriage of convenience. Both sides could use each other. Deshaun Watson likely won't pay. Kevin Stefanski has a really important year. Get the most out of Kirk Cousins in 2025.
What do you think, Kmart?
You know what? It's not sexy on paper, but it makes football sense, especially the Minnesota ties. Kevin Stefanski, obviously, Kirk Cousins is there. The thing that has stopped the Browns is the fact that they haven't had good QB play consistently. So I like it, Mike.
It makes sense, and it's also cheap. It's sort of the Russell Wilson thing from last year. Right? Most of the contract is already being paid. All right, Jeffrey, What's on your off-season wish list?
I'm going to go Davante Adams to the Dallas Cowboys.
What?
I have talked about they need a true two to complement CeeDee Lamb. And it fits in the system because the way that Dak likes to play QB, a lot of timing, a lot of rhythm.
Could you see that?
Where Davante Adams has had that experience with Aaron Rodgers. I think he's extremely productive. I think he's a great fit for the locker room. They have other places in Dallas they need to fix, but giving them a true two that could be as productive and in the red zone, I think he makes a massive difference as well for Dallas. That's where I would head.
What do you think, Tannenbaum?
It's not bad. I mean, this list is so massive. They need 2 offensive linemen. Zach Martin may retire. Terrence Steele gave up 14 sacks. They need a running back. And we're not even talking about the defense yet. So Davante Adams would be a step in the right direction, but that list is a mile long, Greeny.
Well, speaking of the Cowboys, I mentioned this in the open. Dak Prescott was asked about the Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl and how close his team is to catching them. Here's what he said.
I mean, I feel like we compete with the Eagles and beat them for the most part when we've played them. I don't want to say check the record when they're the guys holding the trophy right now. So credit to them. They've earned it and they deserved it by all means. But, yeah, very close, especially when you even watch the NFC game, the NFC Championship. And those two teams that we battle against each and every year a couple of times. And as I said, feel confident about we've gotten the better part each and every time. To see it in such a dominating fashion, credit to them. It's our turn and it's on us.
Boy, I feel terrible that he was asked that question in that setting, right? Because what's he going to say?
That's right.
Oh, they're way better than us.
Yeah.
We have no chance whatsoever. But now you say it, and now all of a sudden, Kmart is making that face.
I need everybody to stop asking Cowboys players stuff. I need them to stop.
That
Because here's the thing. This is a talented roster. We've seen it time and time again. And but the delusion that is there, I think, and the reason I say delusion is because they're not objectively looking at the roster and talking about the holes that clearly are there. From the top down, Jerry Jones, part of the issue is he's overinflated what he has on his team, so then he doesn't make the requisite moves to improve the roster. I get it. Terrible question for Dak to have to answer, but he doesn't have to say, I think we're close, because we play them well all the time. Well, the issue is not the Eagles. It's the fact that you guys lost last year to the Packers. It's the fact that you guys each year end up beating yourselves, and that ultimately is the problem.
Greeny, here's the reality. They're closer to the bottom of the NFC East than to the top. And when you look at the math, and we have a graphic on this, when one guy in Dak Prescott is making $60 million a year, and Jaden Daniels, who arguably is already better, younger, and more athletic, is making $9 million a year.
Graphic.
Wow. Look at these cap numbers. And you just talked about Myles Garrett, among countless other things that will happen in the offseason. Just do the math. Where's Myles Garrett more likely to go?
Yeah.
You don't need an abacus to figure out that.
An abacus.
To be clear, because people will look at that and they won't know this. His number won't be 89.
Right, so cut it in half. Cut it in half, whatever it is. Plus, they need 2 offensive linemen, a running back, and everything else. But if you're the Washington Commanders, Greedy, you said this all fall. This is the worst version of the Commanders for the foreseeable future. You have a young superstar in Jaden Daniels. Go fix your defense. Go get Myles Garrett, amongst other things. And that's why, to me, Dak Prescott, be careful what you wish for. It's not just the Eagles. Watch out for Washington.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I want you to hear what Swagoo said about this. So whenever things happen with the Cowboys, I always like to hear what Marcus has to say because he's a former Cowboy and he still loves the team and the organization and the fans. This was Marcus's reaction to Dak saying what he said.
Right now, you're not close to them. Right now, you're not in the same conversation with them. They've actually been to 3 Super Bowls and have won 2 of them, and the first one was with the backup to Carson Wentz. So I don't want to hear Dak say that right now. It's not the time to say anything in regards of being close to the Philadelphia Eagles. Nothing.
Literally.
God bless Swagoo.
Yes,
so again, this none of the other 3, or maybe to some degree, Mike, but for the most part, you're the only one who might know this. Like when the other team is winning and someone asks you a question, like should Dak have not said that? Like,
no, he's got to say it. Listen, he's got to breathe life into his locker room. This is a no-win for Dak, and if he gets up there and goes, yeah, man, we're 10 players away, that's going to resonate poorly, right? There's no good answer when you get asked these questions when you struggled the way you have. But here's the reality. I will say this: the work to be done is by Jerry and Steven.
That's right.
That's the problem.
Thank you.
And until they prove to you that they're willing to do the hard work, that means spending money in free agency, going to get the Davante Adams, going to get the Zach. Like if I'm them defensively, I go get Williams from Philly. I go get Sweat from Philly. I go get Bond from Philly. I'm making them weaker and I'm getting better. But you got to open your checkbook, and that's going to cost them money. And that's the facts.
Great stat from Hembo here. Last 4 off seasons in terms of spending ranking.
Oh, yeah.
26th, 25th, 28th, and 32nd. And part of that, though, is, hey, you got to go pay CeeDee Lamb. Hey, you got to go pay Dak Prescott. I think where the criticism is, be more proactive. Maybe it's a little bit cheaper. And by the way, you're going to have to deal with Micah Parsons here at some point. So you may want to go add Davante Adams or Myles Garrett, right? But you got to keep Micah Parsons. I think if they could be more proactive and aggressive, Greeny, that would help them.
And I want to make sure I say this. I don't think they're not with the Eagles. I'm not trying to put them together. They're not as far away from being competitive as I think we're making it sound. Being competitive and comparing yourself to the Eagles roster right now is probably just a bad look, but they can get there. The issue is the Jerry and Steven of it all. Because Schottenheimer's not going to have a decision. He's going to ask for these players, and are you willing to go do? Last year he said he was all in and wasn't. That's going to be the facts of what Dak Prescott's going to be good. As long as he stays healthy, they'll be fine. They're just not going to win a lot of big ones.
What did we say this morning? Sign Davante Adams, draft Ashton Genty, and then pick up a couple of players. They still don't have an offensive line, though, right? There's so many.
The offensive line, what we saw in the Super Bowl is the trenches matter.
Yeah.
Invest there.
And Greeny, how about your defensive line and maybe a bigger linebacker? I mean, we're talking about 9 or 10 pieces.
Yeah.
They may be competitive because they have the pass rusher and the quarterback, but I'm telling you, there's a massive gap, and Washington has leapfrogged them.
They got pass rusher, wide receiver. They got a closer on defense. They have 3 key components. Those matter in the grand scheme of things. But again, that's a playoff team. That's not pushing in the playoffs. That's the difference.
Yeah.
That's it. Kellen Moore would have to pop up. Oh, jeez. And that's it. We're going to have to do something. And, Myles Garrett would definitely make this team a better team. Davante Adams would definitely make this a better team. We do have a lot of holes that if we can plug them, we will be a decent team. But we can't plug them all with the draft. It's just not going to happen. All righty, good people. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you soon.